at 4:05, we'll call together the Airport Commission meeting at 4:05. And the first item is the agenda. Is there a motion on the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented. I do have a couple modifications to make.
Okay, what are those modifications?
They're very small, but in the follow-up items 1201, 1202, and 1204 should have all been removed from the list. So those will be points that we will not follow up on.
Look at these. 10.
I have them here.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, okay, so motion was made to approve the agenda as presented with the two modifications as outlined. Any further amendments? Or is there a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 No, we have an agenda. The next item is a public forum. Is anyone here from the public wishing to speak? Welcome, Jeff Showman. Anybody from the public indicating you want to speak?
Thanks,
Going
Bill.
once?
I'm here.
There's two people.
Yeah,
Two?
there's two individuals that could be from the public. Jim Duncan said he wanted to speak.
So, and please identify, there's two people you said?
Yeah, so Jim Duncan said he would like to speak.
Okay, first person, go ahead. Identify yourself, please. Hello. There you go.
Hello. Thank you for taking my comment. My name is Jim Duncan, and I'm a resident of Winooski and a member of the Winooski City Council. And I just wanted to speak today about the noise monitoring portal and seek some help from the airport and the commission in making it work to answer some of our pressing questions. It's been great to see the portal roll out and make that information available, but there's some things that I would like to try and answer with the portal that I'm struggling with. One, how loud is air traffic right now? I can't because I have to watch it live for 10 minutes or come back 10 minutes later. And I recognize that's the way the portal is set up, but it is making it challenging and trying to go back and get information out. Is not very easy for me. If I wanted to ask how loud it was when, say, F-35s went over and I knew what time it was, I could technically go back and watch that replay and write down numbers as they change on the dot. But that's not very efficient given the data is being captured. And sometimes those dots aren't even showing the numbers on replay when they show it in real time. And if I wanted to ask what the average peak noise volume we're exposed to after a month of F-35 takeoffs, that data is not easy to get. I was excited to see on the agenda today, there's a PDF that could be used. You could actually pull the data out by hand, but I would have to do that work before analyzing it and do it every time. And it's hundreds of pages of a PDF every 2 weeks. So I guess I was here to ask if there's something I'm missing, if there's some way we can make it easier for our community to use this information to answer questions that we're after and use these noise monitors the way that they were supposed to be used.
We do not have any dialogue during the public forum, but if you get a hold of Nick Longo tomorrow or whenever it's mutually convenient, I'm sure he will address your issues. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next person.
Hannah's controlling it. I
Okay.
don't know if Devin wanted to talk or not. I didn't see his hand up, but there was another person in the room.
Yeah, I don't see a comment or hand up from Devin.
Okay. You want to speak up, or that person available or
I
not?
don't think he
No?
hasn't intended that he wanted to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll close that item. Next item is a presentation by Chris Nelson. Nick, you want to introduce him?
I would, yeah. So with us here today is our acting federal security director for the region, Mr. Chris Nelson. We worked together for must be almost a year now since you've come here. He's an excellent partner of ours through the Transportation Security Administration. He shares an office just down the hall, but they also have a facility down the road. But we work collaboratively together just about all the time with his team and our team, and of course his security officers in the checkpoint, and some of the inspectors that I work with on a weekly basis. So I'll hand it right over to FSD Nelson.
Good, thank you. Thank you for coming in person too, I might add.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, friends and distinguished Airport Commission. I'm excited and honored for this opportunity to address concerns regarding staffing, anticipated wait times, COVID-related news within our community partners and members of the traveling public. Additionally, I'd like to pass on some information that can alleviate stress in regards to changes in air travel for the holiday season. Certainly, you're aware that the nation is responding to difficulties largely in response to COVID-19 response or recovery. I would request that you consider that your TSA is up to the challenge of aviation security, but they too are not immune to the economic struggles that are in common with the struggles of Vermont. Nationwide, TSA security checkpoints are quickly returning to pre-pandemic passenger volumes, screening between 1.9 and 2.2 million passengers a day. This is approximately 10% fewer passengers than were screened 2 years ago at this time. Yet, staffing levels and other economic factors have not fully recovered as rapidly as the passenger throughput has. It's important to keep this in mind when you make your holiday travel plans. The TSA team at Burlington International Airport and Rutland Southern Regional Airport are prepared to handle the bump in travelers in advance of the Thanksgiving holiday. We work with airports and air carriers to determine changes in flight schedules and passenger volume so that we can provide proper staffing to ensure high levels of security and customer service. TSA Vermont has continued to hire throughout the pandemic and remain focused upon utilizing all available resources to make the upcoming holiday travel as efficient and as comfortable as possible. Here's holiday travel from TSA's perspective. Holidays are historically a busy time of year for TSA. We want to provide you with the information that will help you ensure that your experience is a good one. The busiest days coming up are the weekends before and the weekends after or following Thanksgiving. That's this weekend. We recommend that you arrive at least 2 hours in advance of your scheduled departure time and take factors such as traffic, parking, weather, peak or holiday travel times into consideration. In addition, you should consult arrival times with your individual airline or departure airport as recommendations may vary. Our heaviest volumes seem to be during the hours surrounding 5 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m., when there's a large volume of flights scheduled around the same times. These higher volume times are synonymous with the Essex Junction 5 Corners intersection at rush hour. We have an excellent working relationship with our airport community, our state, and our federal partners here in Vermont. A very good relationship. It's something I'm very proud of. As the number of passengers traveling through Vermont have continued to grow and airlines have been added, the current physical layout has created a challenge while processing large volumes of passengers all at once, regardless of the number of officers present. Our checkpoint configuration has a capacity and it rather easily can be exceeded. Together, we are working with Director Longo and his team to address our current physical constraints in light of the construction of the terminal expansion project slated to be completed around this time next year. We encourage you to visit www.tsa.gov, as there are several preparations you can make before arriving to the airport that'll help you move more efficiently through security checkpoints. TSA wait times are on everybody's mind. Will it affect us? Will it plague us here in Burlington, Vermont? Or will it affect us in Rutland? First, I want to encourage you how you can make this a smooth traveling experience for yourself is to minimize what you have on your body or on your person. To reduce points where TSA needs to open your bags or give you a pat down on your body, TSA recommends that travelers place items from your pockets, such as wallets, keys, lip balm, tissues, and cell phones into their carry-on bags to be screened instead of putting items from their pockets directly into the bins. Second, Take the minimum items through the passenger checkpoint. We realize that you are given afforded an ability to bring a certain amount of items. For security's sake, we recommend that you minimize that. It'll just only help you through the process. This means put more of your belongings into your checked baggage rather than bring them with you onto the plane. It's a big temptation to go to a souvenir shop prior to coming through security to pick up some of your favorite maple syrup or cheese. While these items are typically permitted, they may require additional security screening, therefore bogging down the process or requiring us to spend extra time on each passenger that does so. Maple syrup is a liquid, so please remember that 3.4 ounce rule for liquids, and it is a hard requirement. Some items are simply prohibited for the security and safety of all passengers. If one is unsure if an item is or should be packed in a carry-on bag, check bag, either or neither, check out what I can bring feature on the tsa.gov website that allows you to type in the item to find out if they can fly, or ask us directly on Twitter or Facebook Messenger at Ask TSA. Individuals who are planning to travel this Thanksgiving or Christmas season would benefit by enrolling in TSA PreCheck. The popular expedited screening program allows travelers to leave their shoes, jackets, belts, and enables them to keep their electronics in their carry-on bags. Additionally, passengers can prepare their carry-on and their pockets before entering into the security checkpoints. It's hunting season in Vermont, so please go through and search your property to ensure that a stray cartridge of ammunition is not left into the bottom of a duffel bag. For every one piece of ammunition that is found on a passenger, it adds minimum 10 minutes to the screening of that passenger. If you plan to travel with a firearm, please ensure that you familiarize yourself with the requirements. If our friends and family arrive early, but forget to clear carry-ons of large aerosols, liquids, pocket knives, ammo prior to arriving at the airport, it will delay them. Simple actions like emptying all pockets prior to entering the walk-through metal detector or any of our equipment can contribute to a smoother process in the checkpoint. Many of you question whether or not that it is safe to fly in respect of the risk of COVID-19 and vaccination status of TSA officers here in Vermont. TSA Vermont is fully compliant with the executive order on requiring vaccination for federal employees. We will not be negatively affected when the executive order takes effect on Monday, November 22nd, 2021. I feel strongly that we are ready to meet the current and future security needs of the nation's transportation systems, and we remain dedicated to keeping travelers and our frontline workforce healthy, safe, and secure. Travelers are encouraged to follow the CDC and prevention's travel guideline and guidance on, as well as local and state advisories regarding COVID-19 to the states that you're traveling to, as well as the state of Vermont. All airline travelers must wear face masks throughout the travel experience, and this includes passengers, whether indoors of airports, checkpoints, or aircraft. You will be asked to remove your mask briefly for ID verification, and you will be permitted into the checkpoint. That's all that I have for you here today. I thank you for your attention and consideration on these matters. At this time, I'm open to fielding any questions that you may have. And if I'm unable to answer any of those questions, I have a point of contact with our public affairs that will follow up with any details that I miss.
Chris, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions from Helen or Jeff?
I have none, but thank
Helen,
you.
go-
That was very helpful because I'm traveling this coming weekend.
Any questions, Helen?
No questions.
Okay. Jeff Shulman, you travel a lot. Any questions from Jeff Shulman?
I'm good, thank you.
Munger's on as well.
You what?
Jeff Munger's now. on.
Yeah, I see him.
Yeah.
Jeff, Jeff Shulman, you all set?
All set, thank you, Bill.
Okay. Welcome, Jeff Munger. Any questions? I don't know if you heard much of that, but do you have any questions of Chris on TSA? No? Okay. Chris, I'm not going, oh, go ahead.
I'm all set.
I'm not all set. I got some questions. I've been to some TSA and they ask about food.
Yeah.
Do you have any food in your on your person? It's not the same, it's not consistent with every airport. Why the difference?
Well, the difference has to do with food items appear to look like other dangerous items on an X-ray. And that requires that we go in deeper and further look at it. Now, the food needs to be looked at when it reaches a certain size and mass. It's not that lower masses are less dangerous if they were the unthinkable things. Nevertheless, when they reach a certain mass, they must be physically handled and inspected.
But I have a candy bar, I want an energy bar to eat on the way. Can I take that on the airplane or? do I
You
have to-
certainly can. If it is an item that's by itself, it has very low mass, and that item will generally be let go. But if it reaches a certain size or a certain number of, like a box of candy bars, then we need to go in and make sure that those are candy bars, in fact.
Okay, okay. The other thing is the types of passage. If I come to the airport and I don't have to go through screening or something like that, how is that determined?
So,
Jim George might have a different passage than I. We're going to the same destination. We're going together, but for some reason, I don't have to go through security, and he does. What's the difference?
so all travelers that plan in advance are randomly selected to be expedited. This
Why?
means that you are given.
Why is that?
Because it makes our whole process more efficient. In other words, the day when you plan your travel a month in advance and you go through all the requirements and you pay for your ticket, okay, vetting is starting right then at that point. There's over 20 different levels of security that are being applied, and everybody's working together to find out how much of a threat that you are, or you're not a threat at all. Those passengers that are not a threat at all are deemed worthy of expediting. So we can move them through security faster and apply less security on them. They are able to go faster. That's done on a random basis. When you pay for it by TSA PreCheck, then you are vetted full time, and you are once that's given to you, you are declared PreCheck eligible, and you can have that full time for a period of up to 3 years, unless there's factors of life that change.
So it's randomly that you get one criteria and I get another.
That is correct.
Wow. I mean, it's a crapshoot to some degree.
Well, it's a crapshoot that is always a benefit rather than a crapshoot that makes it a negative.
Okay. My last question is, can you buy some sort of a ticket or a criteria so you can get quick screening or explain that to us if you would, please?
Yes, sir. Our premier program is TSA PreCheck. It costs approximately $83. And once you go through all the vetting process, you get that full time, and you can expect that full time for a period up to 3 years. That's TSA PreCheck.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, does that spark any questions from any of you? who might
Can I ask
fly
a
or-
follow-up on pre-check? Pre-check, it doesn't seem to always be available in certain airports, and in ours, it seems to be, I don't know, sometimes we have a pre-check line, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's a full screening if you have pre-check, sometimes it's not. Can you just go into a little bit more detail on that?
Sure. So because of equipment types, because of staffing levels, and because of different expediting type factors, we can offer basically different bells and whistles to security. Okay. Now, pre-check by and large as a standard will always be available in some shape or form. Okay. Now, when there's a low travel period time, I have the least amount of officers to screen them. Therefore, you may not look like a traditional pre-check line, but what happens is that every passenger can get a expedited card that gives that traveler those privileges of pre-check, even though they're in a normal standard lane. That's a lot of mumbo jumbo that is hard to understand from the outside, but it basically is all based upon metrics and different protocols that we're allowed to implement with different security makeups. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, sometimes it's, sometimes you have to, I'm trying to think what it is. Like sometimes you have to empty your bag, even if you have pre-check, and even if you get a card that says your pre-check expedited.
So on those particular items, there is a standard component that a passenger travels through that is an expectation of ours as far as what we're going to see and the complexity involved in screening their bag. But if a passenger stacks up either a whole lot of electronics on top of each other and we just simply can't see through it because of the density of that, then we'll ask the passenger and we'll piece that apart so we can get a better view of it. That just ensures that we're maintaining the integrity of the pre-check system.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chris, how much training is involved? First of all, are you getting enough people to do your job here? Secondly, how much training is involved in one of these employees?
Let me answer the second question first, and then I'll go to the first part.
Okay.
Our officers are trained on 3,500 different procedures that they must remember in tandem or in conjunction. That's a lot.
Is it conjunction north of White River Junction? No,
no, is a short answer to that. There's a lot of training. In addition to 60 plus hours of training with a mentor or a coach looking over the shoulder on everything that you're doing. There are dozens upon dozens of hours of in-classroom training. Then when they get schooled up to a certain point, we're going to send them to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Fletsey, Glencoe, Georgia for 2 weeks straight.
Wow.
And then they're going to come back, get some more on-the-job training. And it takes them approximately 6 months to be fully certified and ready to go and to implement security screening. The second point of your question was, do we have enough officers? The short answer is no. We're experiencing through the pandemic when flight loads went down and commercial travel was more restricted. We, as an agency, found it economically beneficial to allow attrition to also draw us down so that we weren't paying maximum dollar for a minimum throughput of screening.
It sounds familiar from Burlington's perspective. Continue.
Yes. So like many economic areas throughout Vermont and the nation, we are struggling to get us back up to those full numbers. So even though the passenger volumes surge very quickly and are very rapidly responding, our ability to capture that and to do security is a struggle. It is a struggle. It requires creative management and good leadership and all hands on deck. And that's what we are doing.
Okay, my last question is this. What's the average wait time? Maybe you can measure that, maybe you can't, but what's the average wait time for screening?
Okay, by average in our standard screening lane, it is 17 minutes per passenger. Okay, in our pre-check lane, it is 3 minutes per passenger. That's the average.
Okay.
Now, on those accentuated times, 5 in the morning, at noon, and at 6 p.m., you're going to experience more than that because basically what happens is like fishing salmon during salmon season in Alaska, the passengers will pool out in the water and then they'll all charge the security checkpoint all at once. And there is a bog down that happens. And some of those passengers will experience wait times in excess of 30 minutes. That is a fact.
And I'm sorry. And if somebody's going to miss a flight because they're in line, is that just tough luck?
Well, that's why we encourage passengers to come 2 hours prior. Okay, if they come less than that, security does take a certain amount of time per passenger, and we all plan our workloads and resources based upon staffing models to make sure that we can accomplish that.
So you have no empathy for the person who shows up 2 minutes after the gate is closed. And that's okay.
Empathy really is not a part of the factor for us. We generally process all passengers, one passenger at a time, one bag at a time, as efficiently as we can.
Okay.
We often don't hear about the complaints or the grumbling until days afterwards, or it follows through communications.
Okay, good. Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Nick.
Chris, what is this new facility that we're building right now? What does that mean to you, your staff, and TSOs that will eventually use that?
Ultimately, it's going to be revolutionary for us. Right now, we're operating 2 checkpoints that are geographically separated, and we're going to now consolidate it in the expansion project into 1 checkpoint of 5 lanes. Therefore, you can have 1 supervisor watching both, the whole operation, and that's a resource savings to us. It'll be much more efficient, and we'll be able to see the span of the impact of throughput more effectively, and we'll be able to be more efficient.
We're all eager to get that online.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much from me to you, to your staff, and
Thank
to
you.
the TSOs too. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Does that mean we won't have somebody sitting at the doorway out here in the new place?
Exit lanes are a little bit different. So
No, we have a guy sitting right now, sitting out here looking at people.
our ambassador team, they'll
Right.
still be there on the exit door.
Still
over
be
there.
there, okay,
Until we have an automated solution, which stay tuned.
okay. Anyone else? Staff got a question? I mean, Great, that's it. Helen, Jeff?
Nope,
Okay,
thank you.
Good, thank you.
Chris, thanks ever so much. Really appreciate you coming here, spending some time here in person. I'm sure we'll have a better outlook on the TSA and what you guys do. We shouldn't take you for granted because you make those air trips safe from day 1 to day 30, whatever number day it is, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll go on with our agenda from here. Next item is a junior league Champlain Valley property lease.
So I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance and City Council the approval of the agreement with the Junior League.
I will second.
Motion been made and seconded about the junior league. Who wants to explain that?
This is a property that we have at 3060. They're current tenants, and this is just a new lease that they're executing for another period of time. They are a nonprofit organization that does disperse, collects and then disperse diapers to those in need in our local Chittenden County community.
Are they given any special treatment or do they have to pay for the same square footage as everyone else?
Same as everybody else.
So they're not being treated favorably. I mean, because I know you're a baseball supporter and you.
I am. According to FAA, we have to treat all of our tenants identical, including their rent.
Okay. This commission too, probably the same thing.
We'll charge you for parking.
Any questions? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, no.
Aye.
So ordered. Next item is a BHB contract with the airport, et cetera. Motion.
And I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance and City Council the approval of the agreement with EHB for the airport's long-term sustainability.
Second somewhere?
Second,
Second. Discussion.
So this is a large contract, but an exciting contract that we probably a couple of years ahead of schedule right now because of the critical nature of our industry impacting our carbon footprint and hopefully our goals for net zero in the next years ahead of us. This contract is really the kickoff to a much larger conversation associated with not only getting our baseline, where are we at today? How do we relieve some of our carbon
Now,
offsets?
this is vague. Like, what do you mean where we are today on what's, give me the measurement you're talking about.
Yeah, so literally every carbon producing environment here at the airport, right? So whether we're talking about electricity to our gas usage, to the airlines' use of their ground support equipment, where they have to use diesel fuel, and how do we produce the sustainable energy sources to power those types of equipment. Electricity, is generally an easier conversation, or maybe not easier, but a conversation that's more widely talked about these days. Solar, wind we have at the airport, that all enter the electric input. We have both BED and GMP at the airport, so that adds another level of complexity to how we manage this sustainable effort. But it goes beyond electricity. It's gas usage. It's our carbon footprint for vehicles, our big rigs that we have out on the airfield, the airlines equipment. This contract is going to allow us to study that baseline. What do we produce today? And then help us plan for actual projects, actual solar panels, new infrastructure to reduce our carbon footprint.
I got it, but I was reading that. It was clear to me what you were doing, but I didn't think there was enough, and I don't mean to write you there, knowing what's going on in city council with respect to this item. I think it could have been emphasized a heck of a lot more, but I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with it, actually. But if that were, anyway, I made my point. Continue.
I mean, it is a huge,
It is.
massive undertaking. We just had our kickoff meeting with them in preparation for this contract to be signed with VHB. And it is going to be a 12-month project, just this contract alone. And we're going to probably prepare another contract later this year in preparation for next fiscal year to actually start implementing some of these projects that VHB is going to recommend to us. And it's not just us, right? We can control so much, only so much of our infrastructure.
Okay.
We need to add our tenants into the conversation, the airlines into the conversation, Air National Guard, and some of the larger tenants out on the airfield. That's how we're going to produce or create a net zero goal for the airport. Extremely difficult to do, especially within our industry, because there's so many factors that are outside of our local control, such as the biggest one being the actual aircraft and that carbon production. There is a small portion of this contract that is related to carbon offset programs, which is not a huge benefit of this contract, but something that we need to consider until we get to the technology to eliminate and or reduce the actual carbon.
Yeah.
So that, we have to think about this locally, regionally, and beyond, and figure out our goals, our implementation plan.
Good. You need to put that on a net zero stationery, by the way.
We didn't print it.
Any questions of what Nick is just talking about? Any questions?
I have one.
Tim?
This is probably more for Marie. The $250,000 that was in the budget that this is going to be funded by. I tried to understand, I wasn't quite sure. Are there specific energy efficiency projects that are not going to happen as the result of spending the money on this contract? Or was this contract part of the 250 and the other part of the 250 is energy efficiency improvements?
Yeah, we wanted to create the ability to move forward and start sort of this process. We knew that we wanted to dedicate and start moving in a direction to either do, figure out how we're best going to spend the money on energy efficiency. There may be some smaller items. We're always looking at some things, or as we're changing over lighting or doing something else that needs to happen, that will take advantage to do the energy efficiency stuff at the same time where it makes sense. So some of that happens just naturally in a replacement cycle. I know there's some lighting in the garage we need to replace. So we'll do that at the same time. That 250 was really a placeholder so that we could get started. We didn't know specifically what the projects would be. We knew that we needed to be smart about it, and we needed some help to figure out the best way to start moving that project forward. We don't want to just throw money at it. We want to have a plan, where we have a plan and we understand how we have to spend that so we can budget accordingly and we can make progress that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
So the 250
250
included, like, we knew we were going to
Yes.
go out and get a plan. It wasn't 250,000 spent specifically on energy efficiency.
Right.
Okay.
It's all related,
Yeah.
but it's to do it smartly, right?
To
spend those
do it
dollars well.
smartly, and to add to Marie, just like an airport master plan, right? We can go out there and try to figure out where to spend our capital program or our FAA grants out there. But when you implement project A, it might impact projects B through D that we really need to understand. So to me, this really is a master plan, a planning effort, not only from an implementation or actual project schedule, but from a financial schedule too. So if maybe in year 3, we do see a $300,000 project on the horizon, we can adjust that budget accordingly in Marie's numbers there. So to me, it's a much larger effort to methodically think about this, but quickly, because we don't want to just sit on this either, because these are really critical pieces for us.
And
Thank you.
in everything we're doing, we're looking to see, is there a more energy efficient way to do it? If we're purchasing mowers, we purchased 3 mowers in the end of last year that were electric mowers instead of, gas powered mowers. So we're looking at everything to see.
To
We
big
asked the
projects too.
question, we asked the question first, if we're doing something and going to be upgrading something, replacing something, expanding on something, we ask, is there a better alternative to do this so that we can, have those savings, start generate those savings.
To big projects too. The terminal integration project that is set up for solar panels on top. The FAA is not going to fund that, but we will. And we'll prepare the infrastructure to make sure it's supported on the roof. And we're about to go out to bid for that and add those solar panels, hopefully in preparation for the opening. And that's a important piece to the overall plan.
You all set?
All set. Thank you.
Any further questions?
I have a comment.
Helen, go ahead.
Sure, thank you. I just want to commend you. I think this is really, really important. And it's important work. There's a lot of resources available to help you make those kinds of decisions. And I think the idea of really looking at a master plan while at the same time moving ahead on the low hanging fruit. So it's not, the perfect plan that takes 8 years to develop before you start it, makes a lot of sense. And I thank you. I appreciate this very much.
One thing I'll add too is not only Burlington, but South Burlington has a climate action plan that will be incorporated into the conversation here. One of the pieces, as you might have read in the memo, is to put together a committee, which will include our neighbors, will include our tenants, of course, and include some of the plans that are already available to us today, as well as the utility companies, which have some really incredible programs, efficiency programs that we're going to take advantage of and work with them on.
Good.
Well, that's great, Nick, because I'm on the South Burlington
Great.
Action Climate Plan.
Yeah.
So it's near and dear to my heart. So thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's outstanding. And again, when you make your presentation to the city council, you better wave that flag big time.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. So ordered. Next item is a Hoyle Tanner and Associates contract for the South Apron Taxiway Golf Extension Project.
And I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance and City Council to approve the agreement with Hoyle Tanner and Associates.
And I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded. A 60 word response from somebody.
Absolutely. Taxiway Golf is, of course, a taxiway. It's our main taxiway adjacent our main runway, parallel to it. That taxiway under this project is being planned to be extended southbound into what used to be an old quarry, a vacant plot of land out there, and then expanded to a larger apron and/or aircraft parking position for additional general aviation parking.
Why?
It's been on our master plan now for 2 decades. So this is now implementing it. One of the reasons that we're able to do that is our amazing Senator Leahy has put earmarks into various bills for us. This is one of those earmarks being planned for, and this would create a much larger this would create a quicker timeline to build this project.
Well, why is it needed for certain, for the F-35, for commercial aircraft, or, I mean, you're broadening the Gulf runway, and I guess I didn't understand.
Taxiway, so the taxiway is being extended to connect to the parking position. So this really is a non-exclusive apron for general aviation. It's not going to be for military. It's not going to be for air carriers, although they could use that if there's any overflow. This is a federally funded, non-exclusive apron for any aircraft user.
Okay, any questions of Nick on this item? If
No.
so, you're ready?
I have a question on this one, and it sort of relates to, well, I'll say it for the, I guess I'll just. So this item, as well as the next three, all had conditional wording in them. And I guess my question is, are we approving this or recommending the approval of this contract before we know that there's actually funding for it?
Correct.
And so would we ever go forward with the contract without knowing that there was funding for it?
Every time. Unfortunately, the FAA does not fund design-only grants. So if you notice, this is only for a particular scope of work. This doesn't include resident engineering or anything associated with the actual construction, nor does it include a construction contract, which is going to be substantially larger. Usually these are about 10% of the project costs, these design numbers. So this particular $350,000, you can imagine, will be about a $3.5 to $5 million project. Because the FAA doesn't fund these design-only grants, all of our requests to you before we apply, before we get the funding, includes these design grants, because the FAA requires at the time of grant application a fully designed project and bids in hand. So all of these are a slight risk to the airport, but typically planned not only using entitlement funds, which means just that we are entitled to those funds based on the number of passengers, to discretionary funds, which is a competitive process to receive additional funds, but typically based on priorities, safety, security, et cetera. In this case, to earmarks, which is even less of a risk to us because it specifically will say the Burlington International Airport granted X dollars. So there is some risk, but each one of our grants that we present to you generally has that risk associated with it. That was a good question.
Okay.
Yeah, just makes me a little better.
Okay, yeah.
Understood.
And Marie is masterful at making sure that we account for those funds.
Right, and we only bring those projects forward that the FAA, we're in constant communication with them, and they are also saying, this is the project. These are the projects that we anticipate funding for you. But you have to do this work in order to fully apply for that grant. You don't have enough information. They won't give you the grant money unless you do this. So that's why we do it. But we're not doing it in a vacuum. We're doing it in conjunction with what they are expecting us to submit for and what they are planning to fund for us. Again, there's no 100% guarantee, but we're pretty confident we would not spend that money if we were not confident.
Good. Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed,
Aye.
no. So ordered. Next item is a McFarland Johnson contract for Taxiway mill and overlay project.
All right, so I'll move that we recommend to the Board of Finance and City Council the approval of the agreement with McFarland and Johnson.
Second from somebody?
I'll second.
Second from Helen. Discussion.
Again, this is another existing taxiway. This taxiway is actually closest to us right now, just in front of the terminal apron, just on the other side of this building. It's an aged taxiway that's been planned for rehabilitation. This grant is going to be used for exactly that, a mill, a mill and overlay of new asphalt slight expansion on the shoulders of this taxiway to accommodate new lighting and a safer environment on this. Pretty, when it comes to projects, a pretty straightforward project, but not to eliminate some of the complexities to it as well. It is a large project.
Okay.
Yep.
Any questions of Nick on this item? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, no. So ordered. Next item is to Jacobs Engineering contract for Newgate 12 Jet Bridge Project.
So I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance and City Council the approval of the agreement with Jacobs Engineering.
Second from somebody?
I'll second.
Second from Helen. Explanation from Nick.
This is another really exciting project in another earmark project by Senator Leahy's office. This is currently we have a gate 12. It is located in our South Concourse. It's primarily utilized by Frontier Airlines, which typically has around 190 seats on that aircraft. This new gate 12 will accommodate a new jet bridge attached to the new building that we're building today, and accommodate not only Frontier Airlines, but possibly Sun Country Airlines as well, once the building is open. And as you can imagine, our existing gate 12 does not have a jet bridge, and those 190 people need to walk outside onto a ramp onto one of the largest aircraft that come into this airport. So this is a really great opportunity to create a safer environment. It's not adding a new position. It's a new jet bridge, a new gate 12 jet bridge, but not a new position. It's exchanging the existing one for a new one.
Now, I read that. What's the estimated cost of a jet bridge?
We're looking in between $1 and $1.5 million.
$1.5 million for a jet bridge. Oh. That include foot lighting? Or, no. Okay, next item is,
We have to.
did I call for a vote?
Not yet.
Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, no. So ordered. Next item is the Jones Payne contract for noise mitigation house insulation project.
And I move that we recommend to the Board of Finance and City Council the approval of the agreement with Jones Payne.
Motion been made and
A second.
seconded. This explanation, Nick, or whomever.
Yeah, this is another large project, and an eager project that I think many of the communities are looking forward to. As you might have remembered, you voted and approved, or recommended rather, a pilot program to not only start the outreach for the first 10 houses as part of this sound insulation program, but also design and construct those 10 houses. This grant, this contract will set us up for another 10 houses on top of that.
Another 10 houses?
Another.
So we got 2 going, okay.
Correct, we have 2 going. This is a little bit ahead of schedule. As part of the pilot program, you had the 10 houses in there. You also had the 50 houses that we're gonna outreach. This now adds the design, the permitting, and everything else we needed for an additional 10, which we were expecting to do after we did the 50 house outreach. So we're ahead of schedule on an additional 10 houses. This will incorporate houses or residential units from each community. In fact, today we just had a kickoff meeting with Jones Payne Group to identify those first 25 houses to make sure that the 20, right, the 10 from the pilot, the 10 from this contract are incorporated because it is a voluntary program. We might not get all people interested in it. And those houses are included in Winooski and in South Burlington at this time. So really exciting.
But none in Burlington.
None in Burlington right now. So Burlington doesn't have those higher contour levels that we're looking at. Burlington also has a lower ratio of houses amongst all of the houses.
Okay.
And that's how we wrote our implementation plan, the ratio.
Anything else? Any questions?
I have 2 questions.
Go ahead. Tim.
So with regard to the houses, is it public information which houses have been selected?
Not yet. We're going to be holding a kickoff meeting on December 1st with those first 25 houses, or the first group of houses that potentially could be selected. We don't know if they're going to participate or not, so we're not going to publish that just yet. Those are also the highest decibel levels or average decibel levels within the contour lines within each community. As we move along, though, we'll make sure that those are identified.
Okay.
You're gonna let us know about these hearings, I would expect.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them hearings. It's really just it's a kickoff meeting to let the homeowner know that they could be eligible for these for this sound insulation program if they wish to participate. After the meeting, that's when the paperwork process starts. So if they would like to participate, then we're going to work with them on some paperwork so we can go into the property and do acoustical testing right away.
Is that something that we should know or not know? And you can say, no, you're not.
I don't think it would be necessary.
Okay.
I think it really is more of an operational consideration on how the program is run. I do think that you should constantly be updated on the progress as we move forward, and I will.
Okay, we'll let it go at that. Good, thank you.
Then the second question I had is the local share. This is 138,000. Has that been determined how that will be paid for?
Yes. So remember, these grants are all reimbursable grants. We're going to spend 100% of the funds, and then we're going to, on the 90%, receive reimbursement of the FAA's portion. The 10%, we've worked with Vermont Gas Systems, or that local share, to receive reimbursement through these programs, because they are going to work with us. Because as we design, as we construct, I try to avoid the word construct because it's misleading. As we rehabilitate, if you will, the new windows and the doors, Vermont Gas System is seeing efficiencies automatically from it. So if you think about it, if they're only paying for 10% of a door rather than 100% of the door, their funds go 10 times further for them as well. So they're a very large partner on this project, specifically for that 10%.
So they'll cover most of it.
All of it. Yeah. Right now, we've signed an MOU with Vermont Gas Systems to cover the full 10% share. There is a maximum amount. I think it's at $500,000 per year right now, which is consistent with the commitment from the FAA granting us $5 million a year for these programs.
All set?
All set.
Nick?
You ready for the question?
No,
Ellen,
I have a question.
Sure.
Nick, is the commitment by Vermont Gas Systems for the entire 26 years, or is it sort of for a couple of years and then we'll assess where we are?
Yeah, it right now it is not for the entire time frame. That's definitely a large question that we want to make sure that we're tracking consistently with Vermont Gas Systems. So that has not been determined at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Ready for the question? If so, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. So ordered. Next item is the consent agenda. Tim?
I move that we approve the contents of consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. So ordered. Next item is the construction update. So go ahead, Nick.
You'll notice that Larry is not here tonight.
Significant. He is significant by his absence. Go ahead.
And that's my fault. I sent him to a different public meeting that's happening tonight. Larry is actually at Vermont Flight Academy presenting in representing the airport on a general aviation community conversation.
Okay, go ahead.
So for the construction update, I'll quickly go through this. The air carrier apron, which we were successful in adding an additional phase this year, is wrapping up. Thankfully, we're close to Thanksgiving, and that is pushing the limits of our construction season. We're expecting to repaint and open that facility, that new apron up next week. There's a couple in there that we're wrapping up. Taxiway Golf, which is an old project, just wrapping up on that. Master plan is waiting the final approval by the FAA on what we call an airport layout plan, which is essentially a map. Shelby and Larry are working extensively in the parking garage, as Marie mentioned earlier, mostly related to lighting system upgrades and, of course, some other upgrades in funding that we need to put into the garage consistently annually. Our terminal integration project, the big building that you see up there, you can start seeing the form coming in sight. You can see the big windows that are going to be populated on the top of the building, which is extremely exciting. Got a long way to go, even though you see the foundation and the steel and whatnot. We have many, many months ahead of us. You will start over the winter season, start seeing them come through. In fact, even this hallway behind us is going to be impacted in the probably 4 to 12 weeks in front of us as we rehab inside the building. I'm going to skip a couple because some of these are completed. New security system is completed. In-line baggage screening is more in the design phase right now, which is outbound bags going through TSA security screening. Chamberlain School HVAC improvements. That was, again, another sound insulation project or noise compatibility project. That I'm happy to report is completed. Sound and pilot program I already mentioned. Hotspot remediation, which is airfield safety factors, that has been completed out on the airfield. National Weather Service renovations, which is upstairs here on our second floor. That's going through the final stages of design work. Noise monitoring equipment, 2 stations are up and running. We just cleared out the final location, which is the Williston location. Next week, starting on Monday, we're going to start building that infrastructure, which is really just a 10 by 10 piece of equipment. And that will go online, I'm hoping before Thanksgiving, is my hope, which is a little bit early. I was expecting by the end of the year. So that's really good. And then we did talk about some of these future projects already with what you voted on earlier. That's all I have.
So you have questions on the construction? Questions on Nick on construction? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the finances.
Very good, thank you. So our finances you have here, you have the operating revenues and expenses through September, for the first 3 months of the year, as well as a cash summary and our AIP grant receivable through October. As far as the stimulus money, I don't want to steal your thunder on that. Do you want to make your announcement?
I would love to. I'm going to say a quick word, and then you can fill it in because you deserve to say it too. So the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA for short, we've been waiting for. We've applied for this grant months ago. We've been waiting for this grant to come through. I just got a phone call earlier this afternoon from Senator Leahy's and Congressman Welch's office, and finally those grant funds are on their way, which is a $7 million grant to back our expenditures. That's a critical piece of COVID relief for us.
$7 million.
$7 million, which will take us significantly into the future and really secure all of our expenditures. Remember, our expenses generally do not decrease, whether we have one airline here or one operation here or 50 a day here. So those are pretty consistent. With that comes concession relief as well, about $560,000-ish dollars, which helps some of our news and gifts, restaurants, advertising, vending. Those of course saw the struggles of COVID, and now we're able to offer them a relief or no payment for their contracts because the federal government is paying them.
Cool.
Thank you. So, you know,
It's
about,
exciting.
yeah, about
Your
half,
voice has changed. Go ahead.
right, yes, about half my page, I kind of lay out the summary of the stimulus grants. So this is going to mark the third stimulus package that we've received. We still have monies remaining on the CARES Act. We still have monies remaining under the CRISA Act grant. And as I get into the year to date through September, I'm happy to report that we did not need to draw down any stimulus monies to cover our operating expenditures for the first 3 months of this year.
You did not.
We did not. So what that means is it is allowing us to have sort of we'll say, it's going to help us carry forward. We continue to hold them. And now we're going to add the $7.1 million, this new stimulus grant. These funds will be available to do all sorts of things here at the airport. But most importantly, as we continue to ride out whatever this COVID is going to look like between now and you know, in the next few years, our recovery is not complete. We are doing well, and we'll talk about that. But it's not, it's still unpredictable, right? We still do not know how any effects may roll out and affect us here at BTD. So
any strings attached to that $7 million?
no, I mean, we have 4 years. When we get it, we have 4 years to spend it. So we can use it on all sorts, you know, it will help our concessionaires and provide them the absolute relief so that, you know, they've weathered the storm well so far, but you know,
That's on top of the 7 million too. So that's
that's on
7
top. We
million
haven't gotten
plus.
that one yet. We haven't gotten that one yet. That is a separate grant. But, you know, several months ago, we brought forth and have approval to go ahead and sign this grant. We brought that forth to the board here, to our commission. We brought it downtown. But we've been waiting so long. We've all, you know, it seems like we haven't brought that forward, but we did. So that's that, the grant anticipation note and the revenue anticipation note. I got word today that is finally getting signed this week. We've been waiting on that. I'm not sure what the whole, why it took quite as long to get it done. We did not need to draw down any of that. So that's, you know, it was not a hindrance to our cash flow in any way, but it's nice to have that in place and available if it was needed. So I'm going to move on and talk about our year-to-date revenues. I want to talk about the
Before that, any of
yeah.
this money, could you call it a slush fund?
slush fund. Well, I wouldn't call it a slush
I
fund.
know you wouldn't, and neither would I, but I
I-
couldn't think of another word.
You know, I would say if we had a brainstorming session of how we need to spend it, we would have way more ways to spend it than, you know, there's so many things that we could take advantage to do here and improve. So if we don't need it for all our operating funds, you know, that would be fantastic if our revenues can continue to be strong. There are so many things that we still have, repairs or other such things that
Okay.
we could be doing here.
Which is critical rates. All of our grants are reimbursable grants. This one's no different. So
Yeah.
Bree actually has to show what we're spending.
Yeah, okay, well, sure, it's accountability, sure.
Accountability.
Yeah.
There's accountability. I have to say it was for this particular invoice, and that's what I
Okay,
put forward.
continue.
So our year-to-date revenues, this is for, I said through August, I didn't change that. Through September, we're 5.1 million. We did not, as I mentioned, did not need any stimulus monies to cover our expenses. To give you an idea of how we're recovering, that was about 79% of what we had 2 years ago. So in terms of our revenues, if I compare to 2 years ago, overall 79%. That's better than we had hoped, better than we had budgeted for. So I'm happy about that. And also, again, compared to even last year, our revenues, if you exclude what we drew down on the CARES Act to pay for our expenses, our revenues are about $2.5 million higher. So you can see at a $5.1 million, it's pretty significant that we're seeing this recovery that's happening. Not complete, but we're excited by what we're seeing. It really is so related to the number of passengers that are coming through, parking in the garage, travelers that are coming here, renting cars, those sorts of things. And we're seeing more flights. If you look at our flight board, it's not back up to where it was pre-COVID, but you're seeing so many of our routes have come back, and the availability of flights daily is really fantastic again. Our expenses year to date were a little less than $3.1 million. When I look back to the prior year, it's again, our expenses don't really get reduced by having less traffic, unfortunately. There might be a handful of things, but by and large, our expenses are the same, whether we have one plane a day or we have 35 a day. So our expenses were almost identical to what we spent last year for the first 3 months. And actually, it's about $120,000 lower than we spent 2 years ago. I do know that we have budgeted a lot in repairs and maintenance. And as we go through the year, we are anticipating that we're going to do a lot of preventative repairs and maintenance that are necessary on the airfield side of things and the garage side of things. So we will see those expenses. I expect those repair and maintenance sorts of things to be much higher than we've spent in either of the last 2 years as we go forward. So it's going to be a little bit different. Our cash that we had at the end of October was $2.1 million. So that is lower than we have had the last prior month. That is 100% related to we have all these construction projects that are going on. We have the most number of active grants that we've ever had. And we also have the grants are the largest grants we've ever had. So when we are making payments on these active construction projects, they are quite large. And so really at the end of October, I had a timing difference where I had invoices that I had to pay. We had submitted requests for reimbursement from the FAA. Some of them came in before the end of the month, but I had several $1 million that came in right after the end of the month, beginning of November. So that's why you see the cash lower, because I paid those invoices, but we were reimbursed the early part of November on that. And our airport audit is well underway, and we'll be expecting it hopefully by the end of the month or the beginning of December. It's technically due the end of December for us, but we're looking to get it early. And then
and we're going to get a copy of the audit report
and you will get
insofar as the airport goes. Okay, thank you. I
both-
just want to remember that on our
yes.
to-do list or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, and I think a presentation, you know,
Okay.
to kind of go through it.
Yep.
To get it as detailed or as high level as you want, you know, we'll figure that out as well, but
Yep.
it's certainly at least at a minimum a quick presentation.
Thank you.
But they have not alerted me to any findings. They have no findings, that certainly not that they've conveyed back to me on the airport. The final report will be proof in the pudding there. And then our AIP receivable was much higher than it was the prior month. It was about 1.6 the prior month, but it's $5.5 million. Again, that was my cash timing difference. I had paid out a lot of things and I was expecting some money back.
Okay,
And that concludes. my
questions
report.
of Marie?
Just one. You brought up something that I've been meaning to ask, but it was good that it came up in the October financials. What's the normal, would you say normal, lag time between when you have to pay for something, like a contract, and when you actually get the reimbursement for it?
So it can be anywhere from, I've had some be a week where I put the request in and I got the request next week, and sometimes it could be 2 weeks.
Okay.
So it is typically pretty fast. The one exception is if I have grants that are, if I've spent 90% of that grant allotted amount, I cannot request that final 10% back to the FAA. We have to do what's called a closeout. So I have the situation right now in AIP 116, AIP 117, they're all starting to hit, they've hit that 90%, and you'll see those on that AIP report. You're going to see that I can't request.
Okay.
So if I was tight on money, I could do two things. I mean, I can certainly wait on it. If I have millions of dollars in the bank, I don't have to, but I could also, if I chose to, if money was getting lower than I would like to see it, I could now request that under the GAN and use that as a mechanism to cover the expenses, the invoices I paid while we close out that project with the FAA. So I do have some projects that I'm not able to request yet because it's that final 10%.
So you can, that's interesting that you can use grant money in that situation, because eventually you're gonna get reimbursed for it anyway, right?
Well, I can use the grant anticipation notes.
Great, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense, yeah.
That line, sort of that line of borrowing that I can use only on these AIP grants. That's the only thing I can use it on.
Okay, I thought you said grant, but you said GAN, probably.
Grant anticipation note, GAN, yeah,
Got it, okay.
yeah, all of our little lingo. That's
Okay.
excellent, though.
All set.
I'll say.
Any questions of Marie? Seeing none, we'll move on to the noise monitoring system. Okay? We hit the big pie chart there.
Yeah, Hannah's just getting it all prepared. She's gonna share the screen here, and I'm gonna quickly go through our new noise monitors
Yep.
with the commission. So what Hannah has up here right now is the almost live view of the noise monitors. One of the counselors from Winooski who was on at the public forum asked if we could get those live, which is actually not, we're not able to do because it's a federal aviation administration requirement to be almost live. You can see it's 5:30 right now, but this is 10 minutes behind schedule. However, there are ways to look at the traffic from the past. So if you did know what the time is that you're looking for, you can replay those time figures on this actual map. So what you're looking at is an aircraft, which is in red right here, and the two noise monitors, one located in the city hall at Winooski and one located at the Champlain Elementary School in South Burlington. The third location is actually going to be off the end of one of our runways in the city of, or in the town of Williston. So you'll see 3 monitors here in just a short couple of weeks. This is showing the aircraft, which identifies the call signs or the aircraft identification, type of aircraft, departure and destination, if that's available, as well as the altitude of that particular aircraft. As any aircraft departs or arrives out of Burlington, you'll also see those noise monitors go up or down in decibels or dB, A-weighted decibel levels. It's a pretty simple platform. There's a couple of features. There's some settings where you can overlay different maps on here. You can do a satellite image. You can do a day mode image, so it's a little bit brighter. You can also overlay the DNL contour line, our noise exposure map overlaid onto this actual map, which is the 65 decibel line. It is a requirement that the noise monitors are within the 65 decibels. I've gotten a few comments already asking for noise monitors be constructed in various locations. However, it's a requirement that they be within the 65 decibel level. There's also a help button here, which identifies every feature of this portal. And it's pretty self-explanatory, where not only the overview of the map, but as you, if you would like to submit noise comments and other helpful features on the side here. There's an address search. You can input your address into the feature and a little house will appear on the map. You can input multiple addresses as well. You can have lots of different addresses on there so you can see exactly where you live in comparison. There's a replay feature, like I said. So what Hannah has up here, so if you click replay, you'll see this little calendar feature off to the top left. You'll see what the map is displaying right now. In this particular instance, it's November 17th at 5:06, which is 10 minutes behind from the actual time. If you click on the calendar feature right there, it pops up the calendar. You can select the date, the time, and replay that particular area. Why don't we just do that real quick? What you do is you click play, it loads up that scenario. The reason I want to show you this is you can see it in fast forward mode as well. So you can see there's no decibel levels displayed on the monitors in the replay mode until it hits a certain threshold. That threshold is 60 decibels. When there's an event that is higher than 60 decibels, then you will see it on those noise monitors in the replay mode. You can also go faster. So right now it's on 3 times mode. You can click it to 10 times mode, and you can click it to 30 times fast. So you can really get, you know, as somebody's trying to find an event or really research what happened or where a location is, you can really go through some of this pretty quickly if you have an approximate time that you're looking for. Once you press the square or the stop button, it brings you back to that almost live view. And then the last feature here is what's called a noise comment. This is a form that anybody can fill out with their name, address, email, if they would like to be responded to. And then you can put in a little bit about their experience, so we can start looking for what the scenario is and help us determine how we can help a member of the public, including what type of disturbance the individual experienced, activity disturbed, date and time. What this does is this helps us track things so much quicker. It does send us a form, sends Hannah a form that we can see all of the information on. It does also, if you put a date and time, automatically associates the noise event with a piece of radar track information. So it gives us a much higher detail of how we can help an individual or explain how an operation happened. Over time, another question that I've heard a lot is, what do we need this for? What are we doing with this? So over time, we can use this to identify and analyze possible noise departure and arrival procedures. One thing I can't use it for, and we've explained before we even input the monitors and apply for the grant, is we cannot use this noise information to input into a new noise exposure map. That's a very different program, regulated by the FAA differently, and is much more controlled in how that modeling system works versus many different aspects of noise related to a microphone out in the field, weather, cloud layers, type of aircraft, ambient noise, fire trucks going by. These noise monitors will pick up anything, everything. Another question that I've been asked is, sometimes you'll see these noise monitors go up to 60 or 65 decibels without an aircraft nearby. And that could be anything. That could be a fire truck going by, and the noise monitors will pick that up. And of course, one of the largest questions that I've received is, how do I see the F-35s on these noise monitors? Unfortunately, no radar track information, whether we're talking about ours or flight radar or some of the free programs that you can see aircraft in the sky, displays the military F-35 aircraft. However, we can see minor track information. And of course, the noise monitors will pick up those noise levels as well. So that's a broad overview of the new noise monitor system. And I have additional information, but I'll stop just for a second, just in case, if there's any questions.
Wow, it's quite sophisticated. Very sophisticated.
Yeah.
I went in on it early, but I gotta get back in there to get, yeah.
Yeah, good.
Tim, you have questions or?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. So just touching on that last point about the F-35 flight tracking won't show on the screen, although the decibel readings will. So you mentioned that there's the ability to associate noise with flights. So do you have that ability with the F-35, and that's just not available on the portal?
Not necessarily. If we're lucky enough, I might be able to show you, because we just heard the F-35s take off about 20 or 30 minutes ago. What I'll do, so you can see this aircraft right here, this blue line, it says 720, 675, 625. That is an aircraft, but there's no information associated with it. What that means, Now there is because it just, of course there is. It just picked up information. The reason it's picking up information on all of these aircraft is each one of those aircraft is displaying or transmitting a unique code in that particular aircraft. It's called a transponder code. The military aircraft don't do that, and not all of them do that. So it's very difficult to pick them up there's not available radar information to the public that we display. One of the things that you'll see similar to this blue line coming in is you will see a line like that. It's gonna jump all over the place because it is a stealth fighter aircraft. So even the radar information is gonna have that bounce feature on it. But you will see as one of the aircraft departs, because usually the front aircraft, the lead aircraft does transpond or transmit that unique code, but number 2, number 3, number 4 will not, because they're in a formation flight off of that first aircraft. But you will see the decibel levels change very clearly. You'll see the decibel levels change because of that noise event. The replay feature is not going to, you're going to see it. You're going to see those numbers pop up. And then the Excel file that we're going to show you will also record those events. Sometimes the system does associate that event with a different type of aircraft, which is not always accurate because it's a computer software programming function where it's trying to associate something with radar information. Yeah, sorry. Maybe it might show up. So this is what I was talking about with what we will be publishing on the website, btvsound.com. It is the raw data. It is the information based on those noise monitors. You're going to see lots of pages. You're going to see what noise monitor we're tracking here. This one happens to be the Champlain School. You're going to see a date and time, and you're going to see when an event started. So this one started at 12:24 p.m. and ended at 12:25 p.m. That lasted 37 seconds. There is a header at the top too. You're going to see different levels of different noise terminology that we're going to define, because there is a lot of information associated with these. One thing that I think the public is going to be interested in is not only the length of time that a noise event occurred, but also what's called Lmax, or the maximum decibel level that event occurred over. Remember, it's not as simple as saying an aircraft just took off and it read at X decibel levels. There's an event associated with it. There's a time associated with it. Lmax is one of those definitions on where was the peak level during that time. How long was that peak level? And then some equalized noise levels, essentially what was the average level of noise during that period of time, which is what you see over on this LEQ side. And then the SEL, which is another defined terminology point of essentially if you took this level, this noise level over a specific period of time and condensed it into a 1 second interval, what does that decibel level look like? So it's highly complicated, the terminology of noise. We're going to define this very clearly on the website to make sure with graphics, because there is a lot of information associated with this raw data. So we want to make sure it's appropriate. But again, going back to specific levels, and I might be able to, so you can see some of these levels. There's 100 decibel condensed 1 second noise event on that particular time. There's actually two. In fact, one was on November 2nd at 9:29, and one was on November 2nd at 9:31. I can tell instantly because there was an 86 second event followed by a 251-second event at relatively higher noise levels, 100 and 106 decibels over that 1 second. That most likely was F-35 departures occurring at that particular time. So it is a lot of information, a lot of raw data. It's by the day, by the event, and we're going to publish all of that on our website. Every week, we're going to publish all of that.
Now, is there an incident that you gathered from information there that you followed up on? And what was that incident and how did you follow up on it?
Sure. There's been multiple scenarios. That's a great question. There's been multiple scenarios, not just related to noise too. Some of it, and as you can see from our.
I can't read that from here, but that's okay.
Hannah's going to bring up a pie graph, but most of them are related to noise events. But every now and again, we'll get, and you can report this on the website, an aircraft flying too low. An aircraft circling multiple times. Why is it circling it, which does cause noise? So those types of events are really helpful when people report those, because we can instantly associate it with a radar, typically a radar track information, and we can identify and call air traffic control almost instantaneously to identify, was there an emergency? Was there a unique situation? Was somebody doing practices? Why were they so low? Were they supposed to be that low? And really identify some of those issues. For the majority of the noise complaints, as you can imagine, they were military complaints, and we'll record those and we'll submit those to my Air National Guard, and we'll try to understand them a little bit better. Like I said, we can't use them to modify our map, our noise exposure map. But after we collect enough information, there's a possibility that we can use them to identify better, safer departure procedures associated with noise departure procedures. One thing I caution about when we do that is today we might depart straight out. Tomorrow, when we identify a better noise departure procedure, your departure straight out might turn to the left 15 degrees. So you might have helped some of those people that were impacted originally, but you move the noise to a different location. So there are factors associated with identifying those departure procedures. I like to remind everybody we are an airport, so there are going to be noise events, but there's always opportunities to identify those and try to find solutions as long as they're safe solutions.
Good. Wow. A lot of information.
A lot of information. Yeah, and this is the final piece here is we've received at the time of this report 74 comments off the website since it's been started. This is kind of just a breakdown of where those comments are coming from. There's 2 commenters, so about 42% of the 74. We're not at high numbers yet, so keep that in mind as we talk about percentages. There's 2 people that have commented consistently, and then 35% are single commenters, which is what, about 30 or so people. What was this last one, Hannah? I forgot what that was.
2 to 5.
Oh, 2 to 5. Yeah. So single. These are unique callers calling one time or commenting one time or less. Unique callers, commenters calling 2 to 5 times. 2 to 5 times. Yeah. We also have, what's this next one? We identify what they're commenting on. This is, like I was saying, the majority of our comments are based on military aircraft, most likely F-35s, but it could be anything. We have lots of military aircraft coming in and out of the airport. You know, it's no secret that, of course, we have the F-35s here. And then the last one is where those comments are coming from based on the addresses being input. You can see right off the bat, there's some anomalies, which we're going to look at, because I don't think Baltimore, Maryland is very close.
Well, you know, if we had a Baltimore, Vermont, I mean.
There is a
but-
Baltimore, Vermont.
Yeah, yeah. But you can see comments coming from Burlington and Winooski. Winooski, those are the significant amount of comments, which is consistent with the two callers or two commenters calling in. Those are those locations. So we can improve this, we can add to it as the months go on, and we're certainly going to share all this information.
Impressive, really impressive.
I can keep talking too, and it's a fascinating subject.
Any questions of Nick on that very nice presentation?
You mentioned that was available in Excel or will be available.
We're gonna post it on Excel on our website.
Great.
Go to the question. Good job, Nick, on it. Very
And
complicated,
the team, they've all spent a lot of time on this.
but I'm sure,
Yeah.
yeah. I see you had to depend on Hannah down
Every day, I do.
there. Okay. Noise, Director of Aviation job description. I'd accept the motion to approve the Director of Aviation job description and recommend this to the Human Resources Department of the city.
I'm willing to make that motion.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Discussion.
Yes, so I noticed that the version that was included in the package did not include my comments from last Friday. I didn't know if that was unintentional or,
It was unintentional.
okay.
What was your,
I made additional edits to the job description, just like you and Helen had done.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't, what, I don't remember what it was, Tim.
Oh, it wasn't just one thing, it was like 5 or 6 changes. that I
So
said.
you want to amend this further?
Yeah, I just don't know if everyone's had the time to review it. I mean, if everyone has, it'd be great to do it as amended, but.
We got another 20 minutes. You can have
Well,
19 of those.
Tim, I would like to see them because for whatever reason, when you sent your draft and you said they were marked, I can never get the markings, and I'm too lazy to print out 2 of them and go line by line to see exactly what you changed.
Okay, yeah, so for those of you who use Word, I use the track changes feature. And
Uh-huh.
so if people aren't familiar with that, I can see how that would be.
Well, we could table this till the next meeting. There's no,
I would prefer, and then what I can do is I can send out a
okay, let's
version
do
that's
it.
cleaner.
Let's make a motion to table this till the
Okay,
next
so
meeting.
Can it, before you make that motion, can I just ask if we know what, how our recommendations, are they going to be used? Or is this just us kind of banging the drum for, this is what we think should be
Oh.
included? What's our role in this process? Do we know yet?
Yes, I'll tell you what the scenario is. I wanted to look at the job description anyway, because I think some of us will be involved in making a recommendation on this issue.
Mhm.
And I looked at the job description and it wasn't, I think the last time it was written was 2005. And a lot of things have happened since then. So I took the initiative, if you will, to rewrite it, thinking, well, 2 things. Want to get the commission involved in the process to find out, okay, we're going to evaluate this person next June or whatever the time is. And I think it's the issue you brought up about what's the measurement? So I said, okay, the job description is the measurement. So that's when I asked for input, and I'm sorry, Tim.
That's okay. I don't take it personally.
Okay, so that's why I went around to get some input from people to modify and bring it up to date. And I had brief conversation with the HR, no, we emailed her, with the HR director and told her what I was doing. And she didn't object to it. So that's the background, Ellen, is so
Okay.
if we come up with this and we recommend this to HR, what they do with it, I have no idea. But at least we've had some input and we brought it up to date. What HR does, now notwithstanding the political ramifications, as you well know, the mayor is going to appoint somebody and he can ignore some or all of this stuff. and probably will, probably won't even read the job description, but that's okay. I think we did our job and we'll let it go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now you can make,
So,
ready for that motion?
yeah, so I'd like to make the motion to table this discussion to our December meeting.
Second, Helen?
I'll second it, yes.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We are table that item, and you will get that information
I
back
will
to,
republish.
yeah, good. And be careful of this reply to all. Do not send out a reply to all. In this case, if Tim sends out his recommendations to all of us, do not reply to all, because that constitutes a meeting and that's illegal. So just so you know. Okay, next item is a director's report.
Yes, thank you. Hannah, do you mind?
Well, we're giving you a lot of time today.
So I promised a couple of months ago that I was going to create a presentation, more of a presentation format for my director's report, so it's more of a public format. So this is my first iteration of that presentation, and you're going to see this more often as time goes on and as projects get updated. I'll make it brief, and not a lot of words in this, lots of pictures, and because the words come from me, because you know me, I keep talking.
Okay.
So there's 5 things that I just wanted to quickly reiterate, much of what we talked about today. One is winter operations. I just want to quickly brief you on the team and the crews that we're preparing for winter operations, and that is not an easy factor on this airport. It causes a lot of anxiety and a lot of hours, work hours, within our staff. So this picture was taken last year, which is from one of our staff members. Really incredible picture with some of our equipment. Just wanted to update you, and if you do see the staff, I think it would be well received. Just a real big thank you to their support. And this isn't their day job. They are electricians. They are carpenters, plumbers, facilities managers. I already said electricians, auto mechanics, all sorts of things, and all of them come together and drive the huge pieces of equipment that you're not going to see anywhere in the state of Vermont or really in the region to clear snow off of our massive amount of pavement out there. In fact, just that runway, which is where these pictures are located, that runway is 150 feet wide by 8,400 feet long. That's a huge amount of pavement. We have a couple of new items that we're adding to our equipment inventory this year. One of them is a John Deere bucket loader tractor, which has a 30-foot wide plow and is 6 feet high. It's a massive plow to help move some of this snow. All of these projects that we talked about today, we're adding more impervious surface, more pavement. We need to keep that pavement clear. So that's going to help with these rigs, what you see in the picture. We have 5. Those are called multitasking equipment. They are, again, about a 27-foot wide bow in the front, followed by a 27-foot wide broom in the middle, followed by high-speed air blowers in the back, multifunction. So those, we have 5 of those. Those are what, $1 million a piece generally, that our highly skilled crew uses. They move snow, but we got to pile snow. We got to move snow, and our piles are mountains. So 2 pieces of equipment. The second piece that we're bringing online this year, we use chemical out on the field. We cannot, by federal regulation, use salt anywhere out on that airfield, which is challenging. The salt is very useful out on the road. It helps significantly. What we use is the chemical called sodium formate. It's a dry chemical that interacts with the liquid that helps de-ice our surfaces. When it's dry, this picture is a great example. You can see that snow kind of drying and blowing off the runway. It needs a liquid, believe it or not, it needs a liquid to react to. so that it actually melts more of the ice. So when it's dry like that, that dry chemical doesn't work the way we need it to. This year, for the first time ever, we're bringing on a liquid de-icer, same type of chemical, but we actually spray it onto the surfaces of our airfield. Because it is a mixture of water and this chemical already combined, it helps eliminate that ice. Pretty fascinating stuff. Our crew really went above and beyond trying to get this on board. We don't yet have the proper equipment to disperse this, but they made the piece of equipment out in the field. They made a, think of an agricultural sprayer. They put one of those on the back of the truck. We're putting about 500 gallons on the back of the truck with a pump, and we're going to try and test this equipment out this year.
Cool.
This is not cheap chemicals either. In fact, it's about $5.50 per gallon. So it's very expensive. So we're going to limit it as much as we can. But yeah, huge thank you to our incredible staff, because this every year is not an easy time of the year for our staff, who many of them have families, and of course holidays. The next slide here is, I talked a lot about the projects. I'm not going to go into it. What I wanted to present to you today is our new airfield map. This photo was taken about six or 8 weeks ago from an aircraft looking down on our airfield. This has many of our projects built into, and this is the first time that we've seen this from the air, and that we can visualize it. We do have large poster boards and big copies coming for our staff's use planning
You have
purposes.
small copies?
We can send small copies too. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But you can see our new taxiway system all the way through, which is Taxiway Golf. This is what we were working on over the last couple of years.
Oh,
From here to here. That's all brand new asphalt. You can also see down in the corner over here, that terminal apron project, all that white concrete. That's where we expanded our terminal apron down to the south. You can see Beta's project happening. We hadn't started our terminal project yet, but you can start seeing some of the equipment being staged in there. So it's always exciting to get a new airfield map. So I wanted to show you.
good. Yeah. I mean, get back to snowplowing. What's it?
Yeah.
What's the responsibility between the air guard snowplowing and the airport snowplowing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So similar to the fire department, where the airport relies 100% on the fire department to respond to all emergencies on the airfield, the air guard relies on the airport 100% of the time for snow clearing on all of our services. So that runway, which the F-35s use, that and all of the taxiways, excluding their taxiways. We do not do theirs, not all of theirs. We 100% clear with our own equipment. That is part of the joint use agreement. That agreement says they provide fire department, we provide the joint use facilities in a clear way, which means removing all of that snow. Their taxiways, which are long, which are just as long as, not as many, but just as long as ours, they do about 85 to 90% of those taxiways. Last year, I amended some of the procedures where we are now actually going onto their taxiway systems a little bit further, so they don't approach the runway or what's called the runway hold short markings, just so we can control the atmosphere, the vehicles next to our runway. There's a nice element of safety associated.
So you do some in the air guard, and the air guard does the other.
I would say we do our side, including the runway, and they do their side.
Okay.
Yep. And same with the Army. They do their side. And that's pretty consistent with all of our tenants. Heritage Aviation has a few pieces of equipment. They help pile and we help move stuff. Some of our smaller tenants does the same thing. Our airline partners, even in the contract, they're supposed to put 50 feet in front of the building. It doesn't always work that way. It's a unique situation every single snow event. So it really is, in fact, it's probably one of the best examples of teamwork at the airport, not just internally, but among all of these tenants.
Okay.
Figuring out, especially on those big events, long hours, lots of people, lots of coordination.
I got another comment I wrote down here should the airport have a responsibility to tell the public what the conditions are at the airport? For example, I just got something from DPW, what to expect during the winter time. And does the airport ever have a willingness to put out a newsletter saying, the front porch forum or whatever, we've shut down operations because we can't go to New York or Philadelphia, or it's raining, there's sleet all over the runway, there's no inbound traffic, things like that.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that?
Occasionally we will present that. We actually have on our website a tool that it's probably more technical than what you're talking about, but it's a tool that labels every single surface. So it'll label runway 15, taxiway Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and it'll say 1/8 inch less of snow on that particular surface, or this surface is closed, or all sorts of things. That's more used by the users that pilots and things like that. When we do experience delays, the FAA has a tool that shows that in a nice map feature too, so you can see all the airports in the country. Generally, we don't keep track of that too often at the destination, but it's a good way to advise people, similar to TSA, arrive 2 hours early. Well, maybe that needs to come arrive a little bit sooner, or expect when you do arrive, you might be delayed because either there's weather at the destination or issues here. I'm pretty proud though that very rarely there's issues here that cause us to shut down.
Well, I think it's important. I mean, all of us know that the busiest time of the airport is between 5 and 7 a.m. or something. But if we took Joe Schmo or Mary Schmo on the street, said, what's the busiest time? I don't know. I don't know. Took off at 11 o'clock. There wasn't too many people there. Well, so I'm just put that out. I was going to put that in commissioner's comments or whatever it was, but consider that from the passenger's viewpoint who's living on Locust Street in Burlington, or North Prospect Street in Burlington, or Weaver Street in Winooski. Anyway. So,
every now and again, we'll post on social media as well.
Just an idea.
Big event happening,
Go ahead, continue. Sorry.
Just again, to highlight the implementation plan with VHB, the contract with VHB that you approved just a little while ago. This is an excerpt from our what we call our sustainability brochure. We did this as part of our master plan. So it does take us to the next step with this new contract that you approved today, inclusive of some of the baseline information that we studied back in 2019. So again, VHB actually produced this, so they're already ahead of the game, getting right into it, using this as the study, significantly working with BED, which I should have mentioned earlier, on some of their goals and some of their net zero goals. Super excited to start this process. There is going to be a committee set up. We're going to meet quite often to discuss this. Tenants are going to be involved, and I'll probably have VHB at a future meeting to present to you on some of these findings.
Okay.
Master plan. We've been talking about the master plan for a long time now. We are finished. We have a substantial book, many chapters from operation, forecast, financial. Marie spent a significant amount of time on that. Shelby spent a lot of time on the ground transportation, all the way into our operational side, all the way. There's two things that get approved from a master plan according to the FAA. One is the forecast, right? Need that baseline forecast. Where are you today? What do you think you're going to be at in the future? Which then will help define the projects that you need to get to that future forecast. That was approved very early on the project. The second part of the approval process is what's called an airport layout plan. That's taking your forecast and all those projects and putting them on a map. Very busy
You
map.
said you were going to send that map to us, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can absolutely send that map
Or
to you.
have it at our next meeting, a hard copy.
Yeah,
Can we do that
of
next
course,
meeting?
of course. That map is now in its final stage of approval with FAA,
Okay.
which is really great. It's not yet officially approved, but once it is, our master plan is complete. And
Okay,
many of the projects that are on that map are already being programmed, which some of them, in fact, you approved tonight. One of the highlights of our master plan and the map feature itself is the significant amount of funding that we're going to be moving forward with. That first sentence there, FY 2021 through FY 2026 has almost $100 million worth of projects on there. The majority of that, almost 94 million, is funded by the FAA. So these are huge projects. That does include noise mitigation all the way through airfield projects. Is really exciting stuff. And if you go to the next slide there, you can see that it's broken down in various geographic areas, if you will, of the airfield, of the airport. No surprise, the majority of that is out on the airfield.
Sure.
Putting in capital projects followed quickly by our noise programs. So really, really good stuff. A lot of work that went into this master plan, a lot of time. A lot of
good,
effort.
yeah, it deserves it.
It does deserve it. And then I think it's the final slide or two, air service, yeah. So again, we have our new Minneapolis St. Paul that was just announced as part of our master plan and through various other modeling systems, both through refinancing, some of our forecast partners that helped us through the master plan, updated our projections, our baseline, and some of our scenarios. You can see we're doing really well 2016 through 19 on our number of outbound passengers. In fact, that 2019 we just hovered around 700,000 outbound passengers. Of course, when COVID hit, we all felt that effect in the industry. But what we're really interested now is what's going to happen next. So many questions involved with that. So many questions that change every single day. For us, we are extremely lucky as a small hub airport to retain the services that we have today. United, in fact, just announced a pretty large cut to their network across the United States. I think there's 13 airports that completely lost all service with United Airlines.
Wow.
That's very different with us, though. They're still going to all of their destinations. They're still trying to add some of the destinations that they dropped off. Mainline service, which is the larger aircraft, are coming back online. And our projections, as you saw from Marie's revenue numbers, are a little bit higher than we thought. Not as high as the revenue numbers, but they're consistently going up on a day by day. In fact, Marie just told me the other day, which I highlighted in orange right there, this week, which is the holiday week or just before the holiday week, enplanements from 2 years ago are at 91%. That's huge. That's more than we ever expected this early, and really still in the recovery phase of the pandemic. So that green and the orange line off on the graph right there, green is just a baseline scenario, pretty much a solid 0.5% typically increase at year over year. Whereas the low scenario is what if things don't pick up as quickly as we think. We think we're much closer to that baseline and maybe exceeding it, especially as we just introduced Miami last week or the week before. June, we're starting Minneapolis. I'm going to be extremely excited to announce a new service provider in the next couple of weeks. Same airline that is here, but a new route. And things are moving really well for us. And that's the critical factor for every single one of the things that I just highlighted, whether it's winter operations or all the way down to our sustainability report. I did want to just, on the last slide there on page 12 there is, I did want to just mention, typically it's neck and neck with United and American Airlines. Right now, American Airlines has far exceeded the market share compared to normal. This is FY 2021, but they were at 45% of our market share.
Is that in employments?
That's an employments, yeah, good question. Compared to the smaller pie graph there on the bottom, which is about 30-30 between United and American, which is pretty typical. And then the last slide is just a highlight of Minneapolis, because I don't think one thing that I wanted to make sure we were aware of how many destinations Sun Country goes to. Just a quick highlight for them. So I'm very excited to get them up.
Okay, good.
That's all I have.
Thank you. That's enough. We're getting close to
That's
6
enough.
o'clock. Follow up.
What, I can't ask a question?
Follow up on we can eliminate the air guard, public relations, and rental card, and what's the other?
Rental, yeah, 1201, 1202, and 1204 are coming off. So we
Okay,
still have the public
okay.
right to know.
Okay, so we'll leave that there. Just leave that there for hanging in there to keep the item there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we don't have on here, but any comments before we adjourn?
Well, to that we're gonna add the map of the future improvements of the airport will be added as a follow-up.
Okay, yeah, all right.
And then if there's anything else that anyone
Helen, you have
that I may
anything
have
on?
missed that should have been added, we can add that as well.
No,
Okay. All right, before we adjourn.
although the only thing I would just note is typically you've had, an update from South Burlington, and that was not on the agenda. I don't necessarily have any update for you at this moment. I just didn't know if that was something we were taking off the agenda.
I took it off the agenda because if you had something that you wanted to talk about, your opportunity is always there. I just
Okay.
didn't want to put anything in specific because if you don't have nothing to report, then there's no point in putting it on the agenda. Now, if you
Alrighty,
want to put it back on there, but you can add anytime you want an item on the agenda, because we wanted the topic that we're going to discuss, an open-ended thing like South Burlington items. That's open, that's not open. It's open to the fact that public doesn't know what you're gonna say. Am I babbling here or what?
no,
My
I get
point
what
is,
you're
if you have
saying.
something that you want to present to the commission, you can put that on the agenda to be discussed.
Okay,
That
if
work?
that's how you want to handle it, that's fine.
Okay. And if and when Winooski that comes and we'll do the same thing for,
Well, it's true for any commissioner, even if Burlington.
oh, sure.
Be the same way.
Yeah. Okay, before we wrap up, Helen, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
Help? Pardon?
I
Nothing? Okay, do you have anything?
I'm also.
Okay, we can adjourn. Nothing personal, Larry, but
You're a little late.
yeah.
No, we know why.
So-
It's all right.
Without objection,
I move to adjourn.
motion been made to adjourn. Helen, second.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye. Aye, we are hereby adjourned. Ready to go.